Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today, my guest is Linda Sechrist. She's the Senior Staff Writer and Director of Community Outreach for National Awakenings, a healthy lifestyle publication with 4 million readers. The founder of the website it'sallaboutwe.com. Her stories focus on restorative narrative that offers hope as well as insight into what's working in the areas of personal growth, consciousness, sustainability, resilient communities, and healthcare. So I want to welcome to the Susan Brender Show, Linda Sechrist.
Oh, thank you, Susan. It's exciting to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure, Linda. You know, when people are writers for magazines, they often write stories that are very interesting. So I want you to tell us one of the stories that you can tell our audience about, which kind of connects them to the National Awakenings. What is National Awakenings? Let's start with that.
Well, it is a healthy publication and healthy lifestyle publication. And what's unique about us is we are a free publication. We're supported by our advertisers, and we are a franchised publication. So we have 95 franchises throughout the United States. And I work for the corporate office, which is in Naples, Florida. And our founder, Sharon Bruckman, started this business in her garage. It was a newsletter. And it has grown over the years, 22 years to be exact. And I've been with the publication now for going on 13 years and have seen great growth. And I think the reason that we grow is that we're an educational publication. We focus on whatever is the latest in healthy lifestyle. And we give our readers all the different aspects of healthy lifestyle. So we're not just focused on one thing. We have conscious eating and fit body and green living and inspiration and wise words and healthy pet and healthy kids. So if you think of a healthy lifestyle, we cover all the aspects of it in our magazine, and then we give those to our readers in departments, and then we offer them a feature every month in addition to that. And each magazine gets the editorial every month from the corporate office, and then each one in their local areas is responsible for finding local stories and local events, and so they fill in with that. And I've written about everything, I say, from soup to nuts.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, Linda, let me ask you this. You mentioned that the magazine is offering stories of different types of healthy eating and healthy life. Now, you also said that it's current stories. So tell me about one of the current stories about being healthy.
Well, you know, we have a tendency to think of health not just about eating and exercise. We look at it from many perspectives, including spirituality and your connections within your community, because it's just as important what you eat as what you think, and the friends that you have. We all know how that your passion, your purpose, and your mission in life affect your attitude. So one of our most recent issue for May, I wrote a feature story. It's called Grandmothers Rising Up from Mother Earth. And I interviewed 6 women who were somewhere in our community. And what they were all grandmothers. They were all women who were 60 plus and 70 plus, who are out raising their voices for the environment, talking about what we should be doing for climate change and for reducing CO2 emissions and sustainability and building resilient communities. And those women were just incredible. I get inspired Mm-hmm. So inspired by the people that I interview and what they're out doing, making a difference in their community.
Now, you have an article, and it's all about we, that says, Conscious Evolution, Why Together We're Better. Now, you say, after decades of studying issues of environmental destruction, poverty, and war, you're I suppose, the person who you wrote about, Michael Holick, PhD, author of The Science of Oneness. He says that he concluded that a better future for humanity requires a more holistic worldview. So when you talk about the things that you just mentioned, it's all about alternative, holistic, isn't it?
Yes, I would say that it is more holistic because I call it whole system thinking. It takes all of us. If you have a problem, we can think about what Albert Einstein said, that the mind who created the problem isn't the mind that can solve the problem. And generally, the minds that created the problem were self-interest, and they were one-pointed, whereas it takes a whole system of people. If you have a problem, there are many different aspects to that problem, and therefore it takes a village. It takes a community of people to solve a problem. So building community is something that I've written a lot of and done a lot of research on as far as holistic thinking, and that's thinking as a whole. Again, all the aspects of a whole system need to come together. So when I write articles, I have a tendency to look at a problem or a situation that I'm writing about and try to find many different people who can talk about that problem from many different aspects. So it's the same situation, but it may have 6 or 8 people in the article, and they're talking about the same issue, but from different aspects. And that gives people a holistic look at any issue, whatever it is.
Yeah. Now, we just talked about Mr. Holick, and we want to just tell our audience about what he concluded. So do you remember what he concluded? Because I have a quote that you put in your article, and let me read it to you first.
Yes, please.
Okay. So you say, we become... Well, this is what Holick concluded. Yes. He said, we become open to the experience of this unity only when we recognize the deepest intuitive level that we do not exist as separate selves.
Yes.
Now, explain that to our audience.
Well, we have an interconnectedness on a quantum physics level. If you and I happen to love the subject. And when quantum physics talks about anything, they talk about the interconnectedness of the world on a very deep level, and that's something I feel that people can't come to that level of understanding unless they have some sort of practice that leads them to that place. Perhaps it's a meditative practice. It could be Qigong. It could be Tai Chi. It could be some form of meditation. It could be yoga. It could be any sort of practice. But if you're in that and you go deep enough into it, you have some realization of your connectedness. And some of us think of it in terms of, oh, I'm thinking about someone, and then all of a sudden I get an email from them or a phone call from them. And so we are connected through the ethers. And in a sense of community, I think that we are, even when we're in a closer proximity, those things that some people could refer to as synchronicities or spontaneous events can happen more frequently because we are connected more verbally and in the presence of people on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, let's continue to give the audience some of the quotes and some of the stories that you wrote about. Now, in your article, you say that books such as The Bond, Connecting Through the Space Between Us. This is a book by Lynn McTaggart. Yes, a scientific researcher and an award-winning journalist. Now, Jack Canfield was a motivational speaker, and Jack said that helping individuals to see through the illusions of the old survival of the fittest and I win, you lose paradigm into one expressed in terms of connectedness and relationships. Now, I know that you just explained the whole notion of what connectedness is, but I want you to kind of give our audience a little bit more about what you mean by that.
Well, what Jack Canfield says about, we kind of live in a paradigm now, or have. I think there are things that are changing. I think we are slowly shifting. There are more people who are waking up to a newer paradigm, one of collaboration and cooperation, and I think that's what Jack is talking about.
Now, Linda, let me stop you here. Now, we live in a technological society, and as far as I know, all of the people that I see on the street, they're all involved with technology. They're not part of each other. They're not seemingly connected. So what do you have to say about that?
I have to say that I do have a concern for people who are so connected to the internet, to their cell phones, to their Facebook page. And I'll give you a little example. I was in Chicago for the Institute of Noetics, it's IONS, Institute of Noetic Sciences. And I was in Chicago last July for their conference. And I rented a car and I drove. It was about an hour from where I was staying out to the conference, and I had to keep passing these train stations, or I think that it was that people ride. I don't know that that's a subway system, but it's some sort of a train system. And one time I went by, and I was so struck because everybody on that platform had a cell phone in their hand, and they were looking down at the cell phone. They were no longer having conversations with the people who were standing next to them while they were waiting on the train. So I do have to say that that it is an issue that concerns me, because we need to continue to develop our social skills. And I've interviewed people who have told me, teachers in particular, where they were treating their students to something because they had done well, and the gentleman took his students out to dinner, and these teenagers were sitting across the table from each other, texting each other. They weren't having a conversation, they were texting each other. And he said, put the phones down and have a conversation.
Right. Well, that's why
that does concern me.
Yes, and that's why I brought up that question, because when you talk about connectiveness, and when you talk about people sharing ideas and talking to one another about how they can be healthy, it doesn't seem to be a reality, because, I mean, look at all these people just talking on those cell phones and doing all that stuff. Well, okay, I think...
Well, I'd like to add one thing to that, is that I like Facebook, and I like it for a reason, because it allows me to connect with people that I normally would not connect with. And I've then had conversations with people that I have connected with on Facebook. And there are some really people who had been isolated, had not had a sense of connectedness to the outside world. And I give you an example that I think is good. I interviewed around why kids need their elders, why intergenerational communication is so important. And there are actually pockets of these things that are happening now where not nursing homes, but not assisted care, but these are retirement homes with elderly people.
Yeah.
And they're now making room because they have space in their rooms for rent. They're renting them to college students because of lack of space in dormitories. And then you have some who are taking preschool children in for like daycare. So there's things that unfortunately, a lot of what media focuses on are negative. And there are so many positives, Susan, out there that we just ignore. And there are people who are connected.
Mm-hmm. So. And, this reminds me of a story that I had the honor, I want to say, because, let me tell you the story first, and then I'll tell you why it was an honor for me. I met some very interesting people who were architects, and they said to me, we're going to build a community where there are all mixed people, different ethnicities, different ages, different sexes. We're going to put it all together, and everybody will have a chance to talk to one another so that they can help them live a better life. And when I heard that, I said, what an honor it is to have somebody like that who has such is so inspiring and has such a great sense of what is needed in this world. So, can you imagine if we had different societies that people came together and didn't matter what age, what sex, what ethnicity? Wouldn't that be great?
It would be great. I drive down the road in Florida, and there are places that say, on the outside, it's like a 55-plus community. I think it's deed something or other for 55-plus. And I think to myself, why would you want to live in a community of just everybody in your own age, no young people with the infusion of energy, and probably not very many ethnicities in there, and there's not a lot of different cultures to share, because diversity is what makes this world interesting.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
Now, Linda, you get it. There's no question about it. Now, Linda, you're also a member of the Connection Partners, a consulting group of individuals who go beyond outside-the-box thinking and limited concepts in order to convene people, resources, and ideas that facilitate real change. So I want you to tell our audience again about the Connection Partners and how you got involved and why you're part of it.
Well, I got involved because the woman who organized the Connection Partners thought she was calling the publisher of our magazine, and she ended up calling me, and we ended up talking for probably about an hour and a half on the phone, and we had such a great heart-to-heart connection. And so we agreed to meet halfway. She was living in St. Petersburg, and I was living in Naples, Florida. And so we decided to meet in Venice. And we got together for lunch and left at 6 o'clock. And so we had so much in common and so many interests that were like what you're talking about. You get it. You get that people need to make connections, and people need to feel like they're making a difference in their community. They need to find some way to take an action and help to make change come about. So this particular woman, Sharon Joy Kleitch, was living in St. Petersburg and is still here. And she spent probably 20 years of her life building relationships, building a network of people from the people in schools to the city council to the universities here, and she's built this tremendous network of people who are whole system thinkers who can come together. And she's trained with Juanita Brown, who is her and her husband David, and I can't remember David's last name, but they created the World Cafe. Are you familiar with World Cafe?
No, and I'd like to know more about it, and I'm sure our audience would too.
Okay. World Cafe, you can go online to I think it's worldcafe.com, and find all the principles, the guidelines for free, or you can actually buy the book, World Cafe, and learn about it. And what it is, it's ways to have meaningful conversations with people, bringing people together in small groups. You could have a room of 60 people, but you're only going to have tables of maybe 4 people. Mm-hmm. And you're going to come together around a theme, and you're going to have 3 questions generally that you are answering during that course of your time together that all relate to that particular theme. And so you're in tables of 4, and you ask, the question is asked, and then you all share. You have your time for sharing. Somebody stays at the table and takes notes, and the other 3 people move on to another table in the room. And what happens is that in the course of the evening or day, all your questions get answered. The answers get harvested. Everybody gets to meet everybody. And because you've had 15 minutes or so with these people at the table, you form relationships, and you find people who can help you with whatever it is that you're doing, or you can help them. And it's a great way to build community, to build relationships, and to be able to make meaningful change. And let's face it, if we're sitting around in an evening and we're discussing meaningful things and not what the gossip columnists are writing about celebrities, mm-hmm. we're going to go home and feel much better about ourselves, and we know how we can start to make a difference in our community.
Right. What an interesting idea. Now, actually, I belong to something called Intellectual Conversations, which sounds a little similar to that. Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds like a great thing. So if our audience live in New York or in Chicago or even in Hong Kong, can they get involved in the World Cafe, or is it something that they have to be in that place?
No. There are World Cafes online, and if somebody really wants training in how to facilitate it, or if they want to be a graphic recorder, what's kind of fun is that somebody in the group has a big piece of paper that covers the wall usually, and they're an artist. It's sort of kind of like cartoonish, mm-hmm. and as the discussions at the end, when all the answers are harvested, they draw these little pictographs or whatever up on the mural and build. So you can learn how to do that. There's training for that. There's training if you want to. And you don't have to have training. Honestly, Juanita has been so generous with what she gives away on the World Cafe website that anybody can start one up anywhere. And actually in St. Petersburg, they have the longest running World Cafe of any place in the U.S. I think they were together for 5 years running on Friday nights, coming together. And I got to participate in some of them. They're so great you don't want to go home. At the end of the night, you want to just keep talking.
That sounds like such a great thing. Now, let's get down to brass tacks for a minute. Now, when you are a member of the Connection Partners, part of what you do, it seems to me, is that you bring 10 of the world's leading expert physicians on functional medicine to speak about little solutions to the growing epidemic of metabolic syndrome, which is the leading cause of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. I want my audience to know about that, because this is very practical and very needed advice.
It is. And from interviewing so many doctors, probably in 5 years, I interviewed 400 physicians.
Wow.
And they were all over the United States. And there were some of the really top experts, Dr. Mark Hyman, who's so well known for functional medicine, Dr. David Perlmutter, who's a leading neurologist who's written so much on Power Up the Brain and the gut-brain connection, and cardiologist, Stephen Masley. I go on. There were 10 of them that were part of that. And what was interesting is that I kept interviewing about different things. It wasn't that I was always interviewing on diabetes or obesity or heart disease. I was just talking to all these doctors, and they would all somewhere in their conversations mention metabolic syndrome. And finally, the light went on. And so one of the last ones that I interviewed, and I said, I've heard you all talk about metabolic syndrome, but it's not part of the public conversation. It's not, no one's writing about this. And he said, yeah, but we all talk about it. The doctors all know what it is. Well, that's great for you all to know, but what about the general public?
Yeah.
So I put together a Metabolic Revolution Summit and coordinated with these 10 different physicians and again approached the subject from all these different aspects, from the brain, from the digestion, even from J.J. Virgin, who is well known for her writings on exercise and on vegetarian diets. And I just got all of them, and each one had an hour, and I interviewed them.
Wow.
And we had 14,000 people who came, who were online. It was an online summit. I did not do it. It was a lot of work. Somebody asked me not too long ago if I'd do it again. I said, I don't know. I didn't know what I was getting into when I did it. So
that's quite amazing, 14,000 people.
Yeah.
Now, when you did this conference and all these people got on it, I'm just curious, what was one of the main things that they were interested in?
Well, diabetes, and which the doctors now refer to as diabesity, because it's so connected to diabetes and obesity are very closely linked. And now actually Dr. Perlmutter and some of the other top-notch physicians refer to to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes.
Really?
And so a lot of people were interested for how to get off of their medication, possibly for diabetes, and then the connection between Alzheimer's and diabetes and weight loss. Weight loss is a huge subject. It's very faddish. You can get lots of people to tune into anything if they think they're going to lose weight. And actually, I wish that we would take diet out of the English dictionary. Because it's a word that has ugly connotations to it. People think they have to starve themselves to death or eat special foods, when actually it's really about healthy eating. It's not about a diet. It's about your food intake and the kinds of foods that you eat.
So
and if you eat healthy.
Yeah. Well, so if you eat a healthy diet, how do you define, for you anyway, what a healthy diet is?
There's a couple different definitions, because there are people who are vegetarian who eat no meat, and then you have vegans, which that's a very small percentage of people who are eating vegan without any dairy or any meat, and they're predominantly just fruits and vegetables. To me, and of course, and then we have the paleo diet, which does include meat, and I do believe in the somewhat in the eat for your blood type. I don't know if you've ever seen that one or not, but people who are blood type O should be eating more protein than people who are an A or B. And so you really have to, everybody is unique. For me, I prefer, if I'm going to eat meat, I prefer to eat chicken or seafood. Although I'm very picky about seafood anymore because of all the garbage that floats around in the ocean.
Right.
And I do eat organic. I shop at an organic store and buy all organic food because I got educated on glyphosate, which is the pesticide in all of it's the ingredient in all of our pesticides, and it ends up in our intestines and wreaks havoc. So through educating myself, I have made some changes. And I do like chicken, I do like fish, and I love vegetables and rice, and so that's pretty much my diet. And I love fruit, especially oranges at the right time of the year.
Yeah, right. Now, when you talk about this paleo diet, I want our audience to know a little bit about that because it's also become a fad. Now, the other thing I want you to talk about is the myth of GMOs. Do you agree with me? I've spoken and interviewed people who said that the GMO situation is a myth.
I don't believe that for 1 second. Not one. I'm sorry. That's a disagreement I have because of all of the research that I've done. And the doctor that I mentioned, Dr. David Perlmutter, has recently written about what genetically modified foods do in your intestinal tract. And it was supposed to be the Monsanto, and they aren't the only ones who are responsible, but they're the ones that are usually out in the front as painted as the ugly company. Their creation of GMOs, if the pesticide is actually in the seed, which has the glyphosate in it. So the pesticide is in the seed, and when the bug eats the corn or whatever it's eating that it's not supposed to, its intestines blow up. It's really intended to keep bug-free so that the farmers have a more bumper crop. Mm-hmm. So it was said early on that by the time humans had it in their systems, that any trace of that would be gone, and that's not true. And in Europe, GMOs are banned, and literally country by country by country outside of Europe, the GMOs are being banned. And so I read labels. If it says GMO, I don't buy it. And the thing of it is that of course, we know about the food labeling situation in the country where Congress doesn't want us to know what's in their food. We should have the right to choose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One
way, or whatever you believe, you should have the right to choose, not somebody making a decision for you. So.
Yeah, but Linda, you know that people, when they're so busy as they are right now, they work many, many hours.
Oh, yeah.
So, what do they do? It's very difficult for them to cook a very healthy meal because generally, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but generally to cook a healthy meal takes a little bit longer than if they go out and they buy some kind of junk. So I'm sure that there are people that talk to you about that. So what do you have to say? Because, look at what our society is doing to people right now. They're making them work 10, 15, 20 hours. So they go out and they take all this food out, and it's not very good, is it?
No, I actually have a lot of sympathy and empathy for what people had to go through. I took a cross-country trip in 2010 and stopped at every city where Natural Awakening was published. And on that, I didn't have a refrigerator. I wasn't traveling in a camper. So I had to eat what was on the road. Mm-hmm. And I gained weight. I did not feel good. I was sluggish. And so I know that our food is supposed to be fuel for our body, fuel for our brain. And living a healthy lifestyle with eating right, it takes a revision of your of your life. It's not easy, but here's how I look at it. It's like you can either pay up front for something or you can pay in the back end. And for me, if the eating healthy on the front end and taking the time to maybe prepare meals. And I will say there are more and more businesses now that will prepare meals for you that you can go and pick up, and they're healthy meals. But if you're either paying on the front end for good health, or you're paying on the back end for insurance and hospitalization, for the toll that takes on your body. Twinkies, potato chips, ice cream, those sort of things. And they're nice treats that you can have once in a while. And when I was on the road traveling, like I told you, I would go into they were food deserts. There were no stores around, and other than a convenience store where you bought gas, and all they had was candy and potato chips and soda and beer. There was no real food in any of them, and that's what people were having to eat.
Yeah. Now, also, our kids, when they eat in school, in the lunchrooms, very often the junk that they feed them is just horrible. So, what do you think that's about? I mean, when doctors and lawyers and teachers and all kinds of people know about healthy food, and mothers and fathers have learned, too, about healthy food, why do they allow the schools to serve the kids horrible things?
Well, I learned through that. I had a real awakening. I was interviewing when community gardens started to take off. And got to be such a big, first it was just sort of a fad.
Right.
And then there were school gardens. And one of the schools that I interviewed, my assumption naturally was that they were harvesting this food and they were using it in their cafeteria. Isn't that a logical thing to think if you're growing all this produce? Well, no. The shocker was they weren't, because the school had an agreement with this food company that brought the food in for the delivery, and the best they could do was once a week was to put a salad bar up with the produce that they were raising and let the kids try it. So it was taking actually the parents through what is that called?
PTO or PTA?
The PTA. The parents were getting together to protest this and to come up with some sort of variation. And then one day I talked to my nephew when he was in school, and he mentioned something about having Pizza Hut for lunch. And I said, how can that be? I mean, I knew where his school was, and I knew where Pizza Hut was. And there was no way that he could go out to Pizza Hut and get back to school in their half-hour lunch period.
Right.
And he said, we have it in the food court. And I said, you have what? We have McDonald's, we have Burger King, we have soda machines. And I said, what kid in their right mind is going to eat healthy food when they can have junk?
Right.
So it's the parents are going to have to be the one to protest, because the schools make money from that. That's really, the vending machine sales and the food court sales are money back to pay for programs in schools. And we all know about the underfunding of them. So it's really, it's a conflict, and it's going to take people coming together and working together to make that change. But they have to want to make it for their kids. We've never had more obese children in society, and we've never had the idea that parents will outlive their children, because children are now coming down with adult diseases because of the bad way that they eat.
Yeah, it's a travesty, isn't it?
It is.
Now, we're coming to a close for our show today, and I always like to give my guests the last word. So, Linda, what would you like to say to the audience?
I would like to say that I know that so much of media, and I don't include you, Susan, because I look at you as independent media, which is how I look at Natural Awakening. So much of corporate media actually conglomerate owns all of the media other than independent media. And they really are selective about what we as a culture, society have access to for information. And I think that people should be looking beyond those to shows like yours, to magazines like Natural Awakenings, to Yes Magazine, Health and Spirituality, some of the other ones that aren't dictated to about the content, so that people find out what the alternatives are. If it wasn't for independent media, grassroots movements would never go anywhere. Democracy Spring, 350.org, Elders for Climate Action, just on and on that it goes. Young Turks, the kids, the young, the youthful people. So I say look elsewhere. Don't rely on your local, unless you've got a really great newspaper like the Tampa Bay Times that has won Pulitzer Prize. So, but look elsewhere. Don't take what's put in front of you, and do your homework and research, and find alternatives, because there's so much goodness in the world. There are so many people doing good things in the world that only ever get a 60-second soundbite or don't get any visibility at all.
Right.
And so the world looks hopeless, but it's not. I guarantee you it is not.
Well, Linda Sechrist, you are a great interview, and I would like our audience to know now, Natural Awakenings, where do they find it, and can they get online and talk to you in any way?
We actually we are published online every month and in print. So if you don't have a Natural Awakenings magazine within your area, you can go online to Natural Awakenings mag.com, and you'll find our corporate website. And I'm in the corporate office, so you can find me. I've had emails come through there for people who have had questions or want more information or have comments on articles that I've written. So you can find me there, or you can connect with me. I have a Facebook page, and through my website, it's allaboutwe.com.
Well, Linda, you've been a wonderful guest, and I want to thank you so much for being on the Susan Brender Show. I'd like to have you back another time, because you're so full of information, and I'm sure that our audience will appreciate what you've given them tonight. So thank you again, Linda Sechrist.
Well, thank you, Susan. I appreciate being on your show, and anytime you want me back, just give me a holler.
Will do.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.